Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, you are going to learn about Retrofit, Hilt, and Jetpack Compose. In this video, we are going to make a API call and then display the data returned from the API in the list built with the Jetpack Compose. So let's get started. First of all, we need to add the dependencies as usual. So let's go to libs.version.uml file and add some dependencies in this file. So I'm adding a Hilt dependency. First of all, that is a plugin. And then I'm adding this plugin inside our build.gradle.kts file. So that's the very first step since we are going to use the Hilt. And then here we need to add some dependencies. So for Retrofit, we need to add Dagger Hilt, we need to add these dependencies. So I already had this, so I paste it directly. And Jetpack Compose dependencies, ViewModel and the live data dependency, Hilt for compose integration, and coil for image. So we are going to get the image using coil and display it on the list. You see capt is showing error, so we need to add that plugin as well in this. So adding the capt plugin. Let's sync our project. And we are going to use compile SDK 36, target SDK 35, and the minimum SDK 30. And here I'm going to use AGP version 8.10 and Kotlin 2.0. So these configuration will help you to resolve Gradle issues when you are building. So once our project will sync, then this error will go away. So it's currently downloading all the dependencies because it's very first time we are syncing our project. Like our Gradle has synced successfully. So now first of all, let's create very first file, that is our application file. So in case of Hilt, we need to create our application file which should extend with the application, and it should annotate with the Hilt Android app, and we need to extend with the application. And then we need to create few more classes. So very first class we are going to create the it's going to be the object type class, the app module, and this also need to be annotated with the module as well as install in, that is singleton component class. This class we are going to use for retrofit instance to retrieve. First of all, we need the base URL which we are going to use. So this is the API which we are gonna hit. So api.github.com/search/repositories and then some query parameter. It's gonna return us array of items. Then we are going to display name and then description, whatever description this API will return. And inside this owner object, we are going to use avatar URL for the image. So we'll get this URL, download the image and display it on the list. So let's copy this URL and use it inside our code. So base URL is going to be until search, and then the repositories will be the path, and then query parameter will be whatever we are going to pass from the UI. So let me create a function, a singleton function, which can return us the instance of retrofit. we are passing base URL and the converter factory, which is JSON converter factory. And then we need to annotate it with the provides as well as the singleton. And that's it. Now what we need to do, we need to create a API service class from where we are going to make the API call. Basically, it's gonna keep other responsibilities. So that is gonna be the interface type. And here we need to create a suspend function because we are going to use coroutine as well. So I'm creating a function like a get users, and it need to contain the path as well as the query parameters. So query, which is going to be that any type of queue which is mentioned in the URL, and the value whatever we are going to pass. And this need to be a get type of API, and then the path. So it should have repositories from the path. Now let's create our data class. So this need a return type. So let's create first our data type class, and then we'll come back to this interface. So I created one data class, user response, or we can say users, and it's gonna be the items type. As I mentioned, we are going to use the array of items, so it should match with the same name. And inside items there are multiple properties. So name we are going to use, and the second property was the description, and third one is inside owner. We are going to use inside owner, so we need to create one more object of the owner. So we need to create one more data class name as owner and use the avatar URL as the string. And now here we need to create one more function that is going to provide the API service, and it can use the retrofit instance, and it should return API service retrofit.create, and then we'll pass our API service class. And this function should also be a singleton and provides. Now we are going to create our repository from where we are going to actually make the API call. And inject this class as the API service. We'll create a suspend function because we are going to call it from the coroutine. And we are passing the query parameter. I am hard coding this query parameter in the API. You can pass it from the UI, whatever. So you just need to make that option available for you. And now it's time to create our view model, because view model is going to call repository. So we need to annotate this view model as a Hilt view model, and that can inject repository inside the constructor. And we need to extend our view model class as a view model. And here we need to create an object of our mutable live data, and which is going to be a type of users. And one live data, which is going to use this users as the type. And then one function which is going to call from our fragment or our compose class. So we are going to launch it inside the ViewModel scope, that is the coroutine, and then users our mutable live data dot value. It's gonna call repository dot fetch users. So here we can pass, if we wanted to make dynamic that query parameter, we can pass it from here. Now it's time to create our compose class. So I created one compose class here. So these are the experimental material 3 API. So these are the compose based requirement. We need to make this class as say composable, and we can access directly ViewModel here via Hilt ViewModel. So we already added some dependencies in our Gradle file for all these access, and it is showing some error basically. So it need not to be a class, think it should be a function better. So we'll convert this class directly to function, and then this error will go away. Here, first of all, we need to read the data from our view model. So let's read it. View model users.observe as state. And then we need to pass our empty list. And then we can directly access the user response.items. Items is going to be the array of our items, all the objects. Sounds like some error. We need to sync our project. Yeah, there you go. Now we need to load our users from the view model. So we need to call our load users function from the view model. And now inside scaffold, we need to add a top bar like a title bar. Like in the layout, we have toolbar. So it's same way we'll be creating in the compose first, and then below that we are going to add a lazy column. This is going to be the title of our application or the screen. If you wanted to pass any other text, you can. We can change the color, whatever we wanted to do. So I'm just passing a basic color, whatever the primary color is. Not gonna use any other one. And here we are going to add a little bit of padding so that our list doesn't, like the lazy column, lazy item doesn't touch the borders of our phone screen. So I'm adding a little bit inner padding, And now we are creating a lazy column. Lazy column is equivalent to recycler view in layouts. Yeah, we are adding little bit padding inside our lazy column, which should not touch the borders. And now inside lazy column, we need to access our users object inside the items so that it can render the data on the list. And this async image we are going to use apply from the coin. So basically it's gonna download the image using this library coin and display it on the list or the lazy column. So here we are using the avatar URL. You need to pass the URL of the image. And then if you wanted to pass any content description so that it can help in the talkback or for the accessibility purpose. And then we can define the size using the modifier, like how big we want that particular image to be displayed on the UI. We can add just a little bit padding from the image. And these text we are going to use for our displaying the name and the description. So name, username, I wanted to display as a bold, a little big in the size so that we can easily define it on the UI. And then another text is display the description. So user dot description, this is coming from our data class. And that's it for our compose based UI. So now it's time to call this from our main activity. So let's go to main activity and add our compose screen. So first of all, we need to comment it out the existing code, and we can call set content, and we can call our user list screen, which is composed based screen. Now let's review it. So this is what we did. And one more thing, in the manifest, since we are going to make the API call, so it's time to add the internet permission. So let's add the permission. Yep. Now let's review. First of all, we created one application class. This is required for Hilt. Then we created our app module where we kept the retro instance, and then we kept our API service, and then we created a repository, one function, then we created a data class, and then the view model, which we are calling load users, and then that is calling the repository inside. And then we build our compose based screen from where we are calling a view model function that is going to load the data, and at the end we set that UI from the fragment, and we need to make our activity as the Android entry point as per the Hilt requirement. Android entry point. So V4 look like we did not apply the Hilt plugin properly. So let's add the Hilt plugin first. We can go over gradle.gradle, and here, yeah, we missed that plugin to call on our gradle file. So the plugin we added in the libs.toml, but we did not call it. So let's sync it again. It again crash. Let's see what happened. So we forgot to add our application class inside our manifest. So let's add our application class inside the manifest. This one. This class we created, but we forgot to register in the manifest. Let's run it now. There you go. So we can see the title, we can see the list, it made the API call, it did start displaying data as well as so fast, it downloaded the images and displaying it. So this is basically whatever the query parameter we passed, ATL. Let's pass some other parameter here, ND, and let's see what we got. There you go. So now we see the different data, different images, everything is different. So guys, that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching it. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. Thank you.